I was recently thinking about this earlier today. Is in a game or movie or like TV show, what was the moment that you either got super hyped for or you were like super on board for? Like what got you like on board? It was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna love this type thing.
For man, I'm trying to think of what the big moment was for me in One Piece. I think it was honestly pretty early on. I think because I was always kind of like, let's watch this because I wanted to watch an anime with my brother, and that's the one that he wanted to get into, right?
Yeah.
I think the moment that I was like, wow, this is actually really solid was the fight with Arlong.
Yeah. No.
Because that really solidified, like, this is what the series is going to be about, and I'm all about that. It's like, okay, I'm in it.
The thing is with like that, it's like just speaking One Piece terms is just like you like to that point, everything was kind of just like, oh, you got a little serious from time to time or whatever Luffy did. But for the most part, it's kind of just like happy-go-lucky type thing or whatever. I guess like the fight with Don Krieg, I guess, was probably like the next most serious part. Or like,
but that was like the one moment where I was
absolutely.
like, well, we can take this shit seriously now. Like this shit is getting real.
Yeah, there was like a few moments where it was just like, oh, we're gonna get serious, like the dog, like the with the dog on like the first with like Buggy or whatever. It's like, oh, they burned down the fucking like shop or whatever. So he's just like, I'm gonna fucking knock your lights out for doing that or whatever to the dog. And then it was just like, oh, well, that was kind of thing. But it was like, yeah, it really was like that walk to like Arlong Park after Nami was basically stabbing herself in the shoulder. Oh my god. It was like, that was the moment where I was just like, I fucking love this. I'm all in, baby.
Yeah. Dude, and the great thing about One Piece is that even if that one moment didn't resonate with you, each like subsequent arc just kept raising the stakes, and it kept getting better and better, because after that was like fucking after that it was Sanji's arc, right?
Well, Sanji was kind of like Sanji joined up during the middle of like this stuff with Nami, because it was like they were at the Baratier, then the fight with Don Krieg, where that's where Nami snuck away with the Going Merry.
That's right, and then
after that they went to Nami's island. I always forget the name of it, but it was like
sorry, it's been so long.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's what I remember, and that's why I remember. Did you ever watch the live action One Piece on Netflix?
I did.
It was all right, right? I wouldn't say it was anything crazy, but it was all right.
I mean, it was a lot better than I was expecting it to be.
That's fair.
So it has that going for it.
That's fair.
I was expecting, garbage. I was expecting like something totally, totally terrible.
The one thing that I walked away from the live action with, though, is that, like, one, Garp is there way too much. It's like it should have just been Smoker, in all honesty.
Yeah,
it really should have. And I get like, oh, like Garp is no longer there. He's setting up like Smoker they're setting up Smoker for the next season with like when they get to Logtown. Cool, whatever. But it was like, also like the stuff at the Baratier. I'm like, Arlong showing up at the Baratier felt a little weird, and like them just skipping over Don Krieg completely.
Yeah,
because it's like, in essence, like. Because like they skipped two major parts in the Baratier, is what I thought. Is that they skipped Zoro saying that, like, calling Luffy the Pirate King for the very first time, the first person ever outside of Luffy himself calling himself the Pirate King. That was big. It's big. It's big.
That was a really important moment.
It's really important, and he didn't do it in the live action. And then also because Don Krieg fight never really happened, it was kind of like it was just it was character development for Sanji that didn't really stick. Like, yeah, it just didn't happen. It didn't stick. Like, Luffy basically pissed him off enough to leave because he felt like, oh, he's holding me back, not like Zeph is holding him back. But in reality, Sanji kept himself there because he felt guilty for what he did to Zeph. Like, that's really all it was.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around. It's not like Sanji's like, oh, forced to be there, but that's how they made it feel in the live action, right? And I didn't like that. I don't know. It's like, it's nitpicking.
No, I agree with you. I'm trying to collect my thoughts on this thing because When you ask a lot of people that are, or well, I shouldn't say a lot, some people that are One Piece fans, I think a lot of people typically skip over, a lot of the Romance Dawn stuff. They
Yeah.
look at like the prelude to what you all this, and
I feel
don't
like a
get me
lot of
wrong,
people
of
skip
this,
to Logtown or Arlong Park.
yeah, I think a lot of people, a lot of the stuff that happens, pre New World, people tend to be just like, okay, yeah, it's whatever. It's establishing all these characters. I think people really don't need to remember how important a lot of those, like even like the smaller moments in Romance Dawn are, because they not only establish the characters that are like the mainstays of the crew, but like these emotional connections that they have to Luffy and why we should connect with them as characters.
And why they're so loyal to Luffy and why they believe that he's going to be the king of the pirates. Not just like he just showed up one day and then just did it. No, like they realize they've seen like one how strong he is and two how far he's willing to go for like his friends and everything like that. It's like it's reason to believe in him.
All of that resonates throughout pretty much the entire series. What happens in Romance Dawn, like you were saying, that one moment with Zoro is so important because it not only establishes to the audience, how dedicated Zoro is to the rest of the crew, but it establishes it to both, Luffy and Zoro himself being like, I am here for the long run now. This is my captain, and I'm going to be the best swordsman on the seven seas or whatever for my captain.
Because if you really think about it, it's like as the series progresses, especially before you hit the time skip, it's like at any point, Zoro for a while there, I thought was stronger than Luffy. Like,
yeah,
I think he at some point he definitely could have mutinied Luffy at some point and said, "No, I'm the captain now, and you're gonna follow what I do," rather than that. But he didn't.
Dude, especially during like the fucking Water 7 stuff,
Dude,
he could have easily gotten away with it.
I was like him, and like he was just like, no, it's like you gotta sit down your foot, Luffy. It's like if you let your crew walk all over you, it's like because you're the captain, you make the decisions. It's like the stuff between him and like Luffy and Usopp about the Going Merry at that time. It's like Usopp wanted to keep the Going Merry. He wanted to keep it like fix it up as best he could or whatever, and keep going with it, even though it was unrepairable.
Yeah.
And it was just like, then Luffy was just like, no, we're getting a new ship. But he was just like, but then Luffy was just like, it's whatever. Okay, we'll do that. And then Zoro was like, no, you're the captain. You make the decisions. It's like, yeah.
It doesn't matter who was right or who was wrong. At the end of the day, you're the captain. What you say goes. He doesn't go against you, and he's going to be the one to apologize once he comes back.
Exactly.
If he doesn't come back.
Yeah.
Dude, Water 7 was so good.
So good.
It is. Yeah, I love that arc so much.
It's so good. It's so funny to think that it's just like Water 7's like everything up to like it's like One Piece always jumbles between like kind of just like that like very serious moments is like and Water 7 and like the funny moments or whatever. And like Water 7 was just like that kind of the mix, but then once you got to Enies Lobby, it was just like we're saving Robin no matter what.
Yeah, shit's hitting the fan.
Yeah.
Hardcore now.
Yeah, and especially because like the whole backstory with Robin and everything like that, it's like, oh.
Dude, that one I want to live moment. There are so many points where you could say, oh yeah, this is the catch moment in One Piece. The thing is, the first time everybody watches it, they're going to have that one moment of like, oh, I'm in it now. It all depends on where precisely what that moment is.
It doesn't matter if it's like a show, movie, or game, or like anime or anything like that. There's always like one moment that really resonates with you as a person or whatever. And because One Piece has so big and vast or whatever, and they've hit so many different things or whatever, and gone with so many kind of backstories or whatever, it's like it resonates with you in some way or another. It's crazy. It's like. There will truly never be another One Piece after One Piece is finally done. There truly never will be.
I don't think so either. I can't think of many other animes either where it was like, oh, this is the moment. I need to watch like all of this. Like One Piece.
Well, especially for how long it's been running too, and like how big and vast the world is. It's like you have so many characters and so many things going on. It's like. it's just like you can go over like yeah, it's like Luffy and the crew are like the main characters of it all, but it's like there's so much more in the world going on.
It is such a big universe with so many characters and so much lore. Dude, the day that One Piece ends, it's going to
it's gonna be sad.
It's gonna be sad. It's going to break the internet.
Oh, absolutely. Like the moment when the One Piece is revealed in like the manga or whatever, it's like it will be the most spoiled thing in the history of the world.
That's why if you're not into One Piece right now, get into it.
If you have interest in reading, watching One Piece or whatever, now is the time to do it, because you wait any longer, whatever the big reveal at the end or whatever, like the reveal of the One Piece or anything like that, it's like
it will be spoiled rotten.
Yeah.
It will be spoiled beyond belief.
Yeah.
It is going to be on every Twitter thread, every Reddit forum. No matter how hard you try to avoid that, you are going to see it.
It'll be everywhere. It was like, I mean, granted, it was so hard to keep even like Gear 5 secret for a lot of people. Like once it was like getting close to like in the anime or whatever, it was like, it's like there was no secret. And so I was just like, I don't know. It's like if they couldn't even keep that a secret, there's no way the One Piece is going to keep kept a secret. Absolutely no way.
So, realistically, how much longer do you think One Piece has?
God, that's a great question. You had to ask me there, huh?
Well, even in our friend group, there are so many different answers.
There is, because it's just like how much is like you have to guesstimate how much it is. It's like we're just kind of ending with Egghead right now, and they're going to Elbaf next. It's like, how long do they spend in Elbaf? Is it going to be a longer arc? Is it going to be a shorter arc? And then how many more are there? Like, at some point are they going to Pirate Island to face off against Blackbeard? Are they going to resail around the world? When are they going to find the One Piece? Who the fuck knows? I mean, I have to believe within like the next like 7 years.
Basically, sometime in the next decade is what you're
pretty
thinking.
much. It's like it's just
that's
like,
basically where I'm at too.
Well, it's just like it's just like you. It's like with how many like, obviously it's like, oh, to take care of yourself and everything. I want you to finish it and be happy with what you have and everything like that, and stay good health physically and mentally. So it's like take breaks when you need them. But he's been taking a lot of breaks recently, and so that slows down the process as well.
I mean, I think he's kind of coming to the. I think Toriyama's death affected him in a really like harsh way, to where he was like, oh shit, I'm gonna die one day.
Well, I think it's just he realized that if I continue to work myself the way I'm doing, I'm gonna work myself to an early grave.
Yeah. So, from what I hear with like interviews with him, that's kind of affecting his creative process. Like, obviously, I'm curious as to how it's affecting One Piece. It doesn't matter. It's affecting how...
It's not showing him right now, I'll tell you that.
No. I think it affected him very deeply on an emotional level, because I can imagine those two were friends, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like you have probably like the two most influential animes of all time with Dragon Ball Z and One Piece. It's like, shit, they had to have known each other and been good friends, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, that is really interesting. Like, it's like, when do we think One Piece is going to end or whatever? It's like, how much longer do we have before it truly ends? And I was like, shit, I don't know, bro. It's like I feel like they still have so much to do. That's the problem. It's like, and with all like the different story beats kind of moving on as it is or whatever, it's like with all the stuff that's kind of happening at Egghead, it's like with all the stuff that's about to happen with like Blackbeard, I assume, now that he's getting a bunch of information from Caribou, and it's like, shit, he's gonna know where like two of the ancient weapons are with Fishman Island and Wano. It's like, that's not good.
So aside from One Piece, let's I'm cool talking about One Piece all day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I kind of want to go back to what are some like other, like movies, games, shows, like moments that really solidified, like, oh yeah, I'm into this for you? What was like some more capture moments? I'm
I
curious.
remember
Of.
the one capture moment. I was like, this was one of the animes that I was always told to watch when I was like whatever. I think I was at the theater and I was working with Will a lot, and he kept telling me, it's like, dude, you should watch My Hero Academia. And I was like, I don't know, this is whatever. And then I finally decided. I watched the first episode. I was instantly hooked. I was so invested into all of like the characters. It's like you had Bakugo, who was like the main, like kind of like antagonist at the start, where he's just kind of being an asshole.
It kind of like the Draco Malfoy or whatever. Of the
Pretty much.
Hero
It's
thing.
like he hates Midoriya because he's not strong or whatever. I don't know. Reasons or whatever, but then he like gets in a bit of trouble in the first episode, gets caught by a villain, and then like, oh, Midoriya, who doesn't have a quirk, just kind of runs in there or whatever, and I'm just like, oh, and then All Might just goes like, hey, I can't believe I didn't have the power to do this, and then I saw him run out of there, and it was just like, oh shit, let me just go one punch, and I was just like, holy shit, okay, yep, I'm on board. It was just like one of those moments where you instantly connect with the characters when you see them or whatever. It's like you see like All Might and how he is or whatever, and they have such a story behind him in the first episode where it's like, oh, I had this major fight where I sustained this major injury and took out like a part of my stomach and like everything like that, and it's like I can only use my power for so many hours in a day, otherwise it basically kills me. And it's like, huh. The most powerful hero in the world can't use his power for more than like an hour at a time, and he's that strong still. It's like, huh, that's interesting. It's also funny as like now that My Hero is actually done,
Yeah.
which is cool. It's really interesting to me is just like because obviously like the last chapter for One Piece was an homage to the writer of My Hero that wrote into Oda, and the fact is like he took inspiration from One Piece, wrote his own manga and finished it, and One Piece is still going. It's wild.
I haven't been keeping up with My Hero, so I have no idea how it ends.
I don't know. I was like, I haven't been reading, but I watched up the latest episode, and it's really fucking good. But I know at some point, and Billy and Brendan kind of said there's a moment that kind of happens that they weren't too much of a fan of, and I'm curious what that is because I feel like I would have hit it by now, but at the same time I don't really know how much more is left.
Yeah.
So it was like I remember My Hero was a big one for that. I mean, most of like the animes I kind of watch or whatever. It's like I feel like within like the first like episode or two, I really get hooked. And if I don't feel that hook, I don't usually continue watching.
I mean, that's usually how these sorts of shows go.
Yeah,
Is they really want to hook you on really early because a lot of people aren't going to want to stick around for the ride, especially if it's a really long show.
well, it's like for you, it's like what grips it more? Is it like cool moments or is it like characters? Because for me, it's more characters.
It's more solid character moments. It's
Yeah.
like, what's going to make me want to stick with this character for X amount of time? Like, if it has, some cool action, that sort of helps, but it's more about, like, because the characters in the overall arcing story is what you're going to be, seeing and sticking with for the majority of the series.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if that's not good, if that part of the show isn't hooking me, I'm just out. I can't deal with that at that point.
Yeah. One of my ones that I really I wasn't sure if I was really into her at the start was Black Clover.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that show ended up being so good, and I really should end up finishing the manga at some point because the anime ended at the worst possible moment due to overworking the animators and stuff like that. They basically just said, "No, we're done." So that's why they haven't finished it. I hope one day they actually come back and finish Black Clover though.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I loved about it was that while the characters felt more like kind of, I mean, they basically they kind of base the two main characters off of like Naruto and Sasuke, where one has more natural talent with
A lot of animes have
Yeah,
been doing
basically
that.
a lot of animes have kind of copied that or whatever. Where Asta's like, oh, he's the guy who has the no power, but he works really hard and gains a bunch of power, type thing. And Asta was kind of like, the annoying kid. That's why I was like, he's definitely the Naruto of it. But the world is so fleshed out and so interesting. Where I think in the first episode they referenced this legend where the Wizard King kind of came about, how it came about and everything like that. It was like, oh, this big giant demon one showed up or whatever and was trouncing the whole Clover Kingdom or whatever. And it's just like, oh, then this one mage out of nowhere just came. And it's like very stereotypical prototype, like whatever. And he just like kills it within one shot or whatever. And it's like, that's how he became the first Wizard King. And there's like this giant skull with like a statue of him at the top of it. And it's like, huh, that's kind of interesting. It's like there's clearly more to that backstory, and there's a lot more to that backstory now. But it was just like, man, it's like that was a good one though. It's like that one was one where not necessarily the main character was the one that got me involved in that. It was the side characters or like the kind of like the main host of characters around them,
like the supporting cast. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like he ends up joining like the squad of basically the misfits of what they basically call the misfits of the 13 Court Guard squads. Mm-hmm. So it was just like, or not the Court Guard squads. I'm thinking Bleach, the Magic Knights, and they're all just like, oh, people that you wouldn't think were like strong or anything like that. They have their own quirks or whatever. But it's like, oh, you find out that once they actually put their talent to use, they're actually very strong.
Can I ask, because this sounds a lot like, have you ever watched the show Fairy Tail before?
I have. That one didn't really interest me as much. I think I watched a good chunk of it before I kind of fell off it.
I was gonna say that was it's another Naruto ripoff, pretty obviously, but that was a show where I was initially interested based off just off the first pitch. I still think it's kind of funny, by the way, that the thing that got me into Jujutsu Kaisen was the movie. Never knew anything about the anime before.
Really?
That movie, but the movie was so fucking good.
That's super interesting, honestly. Like, because I remember just seeing JJK pop up onto Crunchyroll. Like, I think it was like only 2 or 3 episodes in at the time. Yeah. And I watched the first episode, instantly hooked. I knew I was going to love this.
Here's the thing. I didn't even know the anime existed. I was like, oh, this is just a cool movie. Why the hell not? Amazing movie, by the way. I think it was called like Jujutsu Kaisen 0 or something like that. Yeah,
0, yeah.
So good.
So good.
I was like, okay, I need to fucking see what this is about. Once I found out the show was happening. But back to Fairy Tail, sorry.
Yeah.
That was a show where I watched literally 1 episode and I was like, nope, I hate this. I'm done. No more. Because it's just like I found what they did with the premise really boring. I found the character of Natsu really annoying, and I was just like, I'm sorry, I can't deal with this. I don't want to watch this anymore. But I like how in a lot of animes you can watch those first few episodes and just kind of be like, okay, let's see where this goes, you know?
Yeah, it's more of just like, I mean, there's a hint of something there. Like, I could maybe like it. I don't know. Watch a few more, I guess, and like see where it goes. Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of what happens. I find. I don't know. For me with Fairy Tail, it's just like at some point it was just like, I can't remember what it was with it, but it was just like I think I got to the point where I was just like, the characters weren't that interesting to me anymore, or like, I don't know. I really couldn't tell where they were going with the story, and I was just like, I was kind of just not on board for that. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
I think at that point in time too, I was just kind of like fed up with shonen anime, because when I first started Fairy Tail, when I first started Fairy Tail, that was pretty much all the anime I was watching, and I was just like, okay, I want to try something else now. And the first show I watched after that, that was an anime, was Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Not sure if you've ever watched that show. It is super funny. It is super funny, and I love it. It's basically an anime version of a sitcom, but with a Dragon made, obviously.
Yeah.
So good. But so for a while I just kind of watched different shit. Then I came back eventually. Obviously, I never got off like the One Piece train.
No,
But eventually I watched shows like Black Clover. I tried watching Bleach again. And then obviously Jujutsu Kaisen came much later. But
oh yeah.
no, for that was a time where like I was also like super big into, I think it was Soul Eater and shows like that where it was just, I don't know. I'm not gonna justify this shit anymore. I watched Fairy Tail and I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah. Oh, I was trying to remember what Soul Eater was. Yeah, I remember that now.
That was my very first manga. I rented it from my school. So good. That was back when that show just came out too.
Man, your school had manga. You had the cool school.
Oh, we had a whole manga section, boy. It was fucking dope.
See, I went to good old Christian school where they believed that manga was like anti-God.
Aw, damn, dude. You fucking missed out.
Exactly. Like, here's the thing. I would have went to the library if there was manga.
Our school did have a big manga section. The thing is that I was our school's, like, coveted dork, I guess you could say, where I was the only one that would rent that shit. And other kids would make fun of me. So I had all that to myself.
Yeah, they're missing out.
It made me feel really special. Oh, they absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, I had a small friend group that would read shit like Bleach and the Naruto stuff, but like basically everything else I had free reign over.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
It was very good. I always find it funny. It's like I never really read manga. It wasn't until like I was like, okay, I should actually like catch up with One Piece, where it's at, because I was like, I watched like week to week with One Piece since. Fuck, how old was it? when was it was week to week since I believe it was Water 7. That sounds right. God damn, dude. I don't regret watching week to week because it was so cool. Like basically knowing every Sunday I had like something cool to watch.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, man, you hit some arcs or whatever. It's like Skypiea and like Dressrosa. Like even Fishman Island was a bit of a slog. But it's like I don't regret it. Yeah, but I was like, now that I'm like basically like I'm caught up with the manga and everything like that, it's like me and my brother now just like let a few episodes of the anime just kind of pile up, and then we'll just watch it all in one go. The last episode was with Garp and saving Kobe on Pirate Island. Oh, so good.
Man, I forgot about Kobe. I keep forgetting about Kobe. Whatever the fuck. Oh, Helmeppo. That's his name, yeah.
Fucking Helmeppo, dude. Yeah.
So, there's this stereotype that goes around in the anime community where it's like, why do my parents always have to walk in at the worst possible time?
Dude, they really do.
Did you ever have a moment like that?
Oh, abso-fucking-lutely. I think I've told one of those.
Let's hear it again, because I got one too.
I'm pretty sure I've told this on this podcast before, but I'm going to just tell it again really fast. So I remember I was like, it was one of those like Bleach filler episodes or whatever where they like go to the beach or whatever.
Oh, I know what you're referencing.
Yeah, and you got some ladies on that cast or whatever, so they all just had to show up and be in some skimpy bikinis and stuff like that. And my dad comes in and like kind of like walks over and is just like wants to talk to me or whatever. I pause it, didn't look at the fucking screen, didn't do anything or whatever. Like didn't look at anything. I just kind of like paused it, looked up at him. He looks over at the. I look at him. He's looking over at the screen, like I guess like it was like, oh, what you watching type thing or whatever. And I look back at the screen, and it's like the zoomed in, like you have like it's the shot of like all the girls in their bikinis, like sitting there, and just like being in very sexy poses. And I go, I guess I walked in at a bad time, and then he walks away. Oh! Every time that happens.
I have one that's almost worse. So I told you that the very first manga I read was Soul Eater, right?
Uh-huh.
So I was reading the manga for a while. And I went to one. So one day I went to one of those anime streaming websites, so I could watch the TV series. Right? I figured it's shonen anime. My parents have watched me watch One Piece and fucking Naruto, and back when I was into that show or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, they won't have an issue with me watching this one, certainly.
No.
I forgot what happens in the first book. Where, the main character accidentally, flies into this house and into the bathtub where there's this naked cat lady. One of the only moments in that series, and it happens in the first episode. There's not that many dirty moments in, well, I shouldn't say that in Soul Eater, but man, there's a mummy thing that happens a little bit later. Whatever, but
not the point.
Not the point. It was a Saturday, so obviously later in the night, me and my dad were gonna watch, the live-action Batman series and Star Trek, like we do every weekend. Oh man, I'm so glad my dad was a dork like me, but. I watched the first episode of that anime, and I decided to do it in the living room.
Oh, boy.
It got to that moment, and that was the moment. It's like the pizza's ready, Dad's walking upstairs. He's like, son, what did I tell you about going on those websites? And you're doing it in the family room? If you're going to do it anywhere good, go do it upstairs on your laptop. And I was like, dude, I promise, 10 seconds before this, they were fighting demons in the other room. Just wait.
I swear it's not always this. It's really cool.
Basically, yeah. I'm like, no, wait. Just give it a second. And in order to convince him that I'm not watching pornography, I was like, please stay here. Just keep watching. It'll get past this part. It took a little bit, but eventually it did get past it, and it's like, see, they're fighting like a witch or something, and he just rolls his eyes and walks away, and I was super embarrassed.
I think something like that happened when I first tried to watch Sailor Moon. I think when I was younger or whatever, it's like you had the magical girl transformation where it just it's like they have it kind of blurred or whatever, bright, so you can't really see anything. Mm-hmm. But it's you see that happen, and my dad just it just goes what kind of gay shit are you watching? He said that, and I'm just I didn't realize girls doing magical transformations was gay, but hey, sure.
It's pretty gay.
What are you talking about? Sailor Moon's awesome.
Sailor Moon is awesome. It is also fucking super gay.
Yeah, that's true.
So you're the coveted 5% gay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I was like, dude, every time. It's why I stopped watching it in I stopped watching anime in the living room where my dad oftentimes sat or whatever, and I'd just be on the computer doing stuff.
Yeah.
It got to the point where I was like, I just put on headphones, and then every so often I'm just like, well, I don't want him to see stuff or whatever, because there was times where I think it was one of those times in One Piece where it was you getting some bouncy shots or whatever with some of the ladies or whatever, and I just go, well, maybe I should move this into the other room. Which is just I'm pretty sure my dad probably saw that and was just and then just saw me turn it off and get up and leave it or whatever, and he was just I understand. That was what he said to me.
Eventually, my dad did understand, and
my dad did not.
It was really funny though, because every single time, my dad was one of those rare parents where literally every single time he would come in the room and see us playing video games, we could be playing like Halo or Minecraft or something, and he would be like, "Hey, what are you guys playing? Mario?" Like every single time he would come in like watch us watching a different anime or whatever, and he'd be like, "What are you guys watching? Naruto?" I remember one of those times it was Attack on Titan. It was.
Yeah.
I didn't even watch that show anymore.
Yeah, I fell off that show.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like a lot of people tell me it's really good. I just couldn't get into it.
Naruto or Attack on Titan?
Attack on Titan. I was like, I watched all of Naruto.
Okay. I didn't. I played the video games.
That's fair. I watched all of it, including like Shippuden and stuff.
Have you watched all of Boruto?
No.
Okay.
I fell off Boruto.
Good.
Yeah. I was like, I think I gave it like 50 episodes, and I just said, I'm
Maybe
good.
Maybe I shouldn't do this. Yeah.
I'm good. Naruto was good, but like Boruto, I could live without.
Mm-hmm.
You got so many different other animes you could watch. You got JJK, Black Clover, all the good stuff, and there's still more that comes out consistently. Yeah.
So this really isn't like a show or an anime, but can I tell a story about the moment that I think really like solidified me as a horror fan?
Sure.
So it was pretty recently, last couple of years, where I decided. I think no, this wasn't last year. It had to be like the year before last year. But I decided that I was gonna sit down and watch like all the classics. Right?
Uh-huh.
It's that time of year. It's October. Let's sit down and watch a lot of the older movies that I have never seen yet. And there were a couple that I watched where I was like, oh, this is fun. I understand why people like these or why they're famous or whatever. The movie that did it for me, strangely enough, was Hellraiser. And for the grand majority, like the first 70% of the movie, I was like, this is fucking stupid. This is dumb. Why am I even watching this? Because there were like no monsters. All the characters I absolutely hated, and it's like, this is the worst thing. And then it has one of the single greatest cinematic moments I've ever seen, and I was like, wait, shit, this fucking slaps. The moment when you first see the Cenobites for the first time, and they go into that girl's hospital room, that moment sits so hard. Slaps so hard. There are so many like iconic lines in that like 2 minutes of screen time that they have, where I was like, oh wait, no shit, I'm into this. So like, and just basically everything that happened afterwards, man. Like the movie after that, I think it was like Friday the 13th, and then I watched the original Halloween, and it's like, fuck, I'm kind of into this now. And shortly after, I started playing Dead by Daylight, and I've gotten, almost 500 hours in that game now.
Nice. Horror is one of those ones that I was just like, it's always hit or miss for me, and more often than not, I feel like it's a miss. But there are some that are very good.
It's gonna miss for a lot of people. That's something that I've kind of like generally accepted as time goes on, but. It's one of those things where either you love it or you hate it. Me, I love it. But yeah.
That is a good way to put it. Is like there's not much in between when it comes to horror. It's either you're all the way on board or you're just not about it.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, either is fine, really.
Yeah, just everyone has different tastes,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Like, I try to think back at like some of like I think like what was that one? I think when we did like. There was a movie you recommended me. I don't remember what it was called again. During like it was like around Halloween or whatever, and we were just like, oh, what spooky movies you watching or whatever. I was like, I don't know. And you recommended me something. I don't remember what it was.
Grave Encounters.
That's what it was.
Yeah, I think you enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, that one was actually quite good or whatever. And what I find is that I tend to like these like smaller budget ones. There's the Red Web podcast has like what they call their movie club. So where they watch like usually is like anything from true crime to like supernatural. It's most of the time like supernatural, like horror movies or whatever, where they kind of watch like some ones or what. I don't remember what the last one they put out one, or I watched one of the ones, and it was like something similar to that, where it was like something similar to Grave Encounters, where it was like this Japanese horror that was like this like group of like ghost hunters go out to like this. I think it was like a sanatorium or something like that, where they find out that they actually were like. In the end, you realize that they staged everything basically up into a certain point where then the supernatural stuff happens or something like that. There's like this like special room where it's like room like 402 or something like that, and like if anyone that opens room 402 like dies or something like that. I have to find what that was called.
I think I know what you're referring to, but the name isn't ringing a bell.
Yeah. I think I have it saved here. Let me see if I can find it.
I think one of the reasons, like, the horror and, like, you know, obviously, like, Gorefest, you know, like, Friday the 13th is so divisive is because a lot of people, at the end of the day, they do want to just watch, like, a good horror movie. I watch the movies because they're bad.
Yeah. It's like sorry, I found it here. It's the Gojim Haunted Asylum. It's like a movie that came out in, like, 2018. It was, like, because, like, the whole point was that they were, like, it was like ghost hunters that were trying to go that or whatever, and it was like they like plant all their evidence or whatever to attract more because they're like live streaming the whole event, but it's not actually live stream, but it is. It's like basically they just film it and then they post it, then they live stream it or whatever.
This looks fucking sick. It's on Tubi too.
Yeah, it's honestly super good and has really good scares. I think when it comes down to it, it's like horror films can't just be like, oh, all about jump scares. It's like, yeah, you can have some or whatever, but it's like especially this one's more like atmospheric, where it's like, oh, it's just creepy all around.
A good movie
with
that
a good twist
scares you, it needs to build up to this. It needs to just not just like build up to the scares, but it needs to be like this overarching like horror that just, you know, makes your spine tingle.
Mm-hmm. There was the most recent one they did. I can't remember what it was called. I was kind of listening to the synopsis of it, and I was like, oh, that sounds super interesting. Pulse, that's what it's called. It's from 2001. They was like, oh, it's not so much a horror film for the sake of like horror. It's more of like it builds up the horror type thing, and it's different kind, and it's like seems like the kind of type that I would be into. So I was meaning to go look it up and see if I could find it anywhere.
It's the reason that like the original Blair Witch Project is still considered like one of the better horror movies to ever come out. Dude, another movie that I think is going to be a hit or miss for a lot of people too is have you ever heard of the movie Skinamarink before?
Skinamarink. Can't say I have.
That's another like low budget, you know, like indie horror movie that I think had a pretty big like came out in 2022. It's a fairly recent one, but it had a pretty big cult following. Is he on? It has like a 73 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's gotten like a 2.1 on Google. It's divisive because you're either going to not think it's scary at all and be super bored the entire time, because shit just takes so long to happen, or it'll scare the ever-living shit out of you and fill you with a lot of tension, which it did for me.
That's fair.
Because basically the whole point of the movie is it tries to make you feel like you're a child again in a dark and unfamiliar place where you know you're in danger. And there are some points in the movie where I legit had to just face away from the screen or just, you know, pause it because it's like I can't even deal with this right now.
Yeah, that's always what I find is just like, man, they really just had to like go in on it, and it was just like, man, it's hard to watch sometimes because it's just like the tension is like so high, and it's like, oh, it's so difficult to just like go, oh yeah, I'm just gonna watch this and be super enthralled with it, because sometimes it's just like it's so scary that I'm just like, I don't want to look at this because it's like it's just creepy.
Mm-hmm. There aren't many gore films that will really hit me in quite the same way. Obviously, none of them are like super atmospheric or whatever, but it's really hard to make an effective gore film without it just being like gross. Like, okay, seriously, dude, we really had to go there. I think one of the movies that kind of did it for me, where it was, super bloody and stuff, to where it's, disturbing without it being, like sexually gross, but also having a good message. Man, I'm going. It's a good movie, believe me. Have you ever heard of the movie Martyrs before?
Martyrs.
The original, not the remake.
Can't say I have.
It's another like legendary horror movie that has like a really big following. It came out in 2008, and there were that's another movie, man, where there were just so many moments where legit I had to just pause or fucking just I was just like I can't fucking watch this shit.
Yeah.
Bro, there's absolutely no way. I think the moment that hit probably the hardest was spoilers, obviously, for the next 10 seconds for anybody that wants to watch Martyrs, I guess. But there's this one girl who had a like metal like plate or helmet screwed onto her head, but she just goes insane and just starts ripping it off. And I was, nope, I'm done. I paused the movie, and for like a solid 20 minutes, I just had to walk away and just do something else. Because I was just like, fuck, I can't do this shit no more, man. I don't care how good people tell me this movie is.
Yeah, there's just some points where it just hits and you're just like, oh my god, I literally cannot do this right now.
Yep, this is just a bit too much. Dude, and so have you ever watched the movie Lake Mungo before?
Lake Mungo? Can't say I have.
That is a movie that I would highly recommend watching. Because for the vast majority of the movie, I don't think it's going to build up too much. It is, right, you're going to be entertained by the story, I think. But the very ending of the movie.
Oh, it's like one of those found footage horrors, too?
Believe me, the very last scene in that movie, I think, will scare you more than any other film ever has. Because that's what it did to me. I was watching it for like the vast majority of the film, and it's like, I don't get why people love this movie so much. And then that ending happened, and I was mortified.
Oh.
I don't think I've ever been that scared in my entire life. And I watched it like maybe a couple minutes before I had to go to bed. It was really bad.
See, so here's the thing. Do you watch like horror films like at night, or do you always like do it in the morning so you can kind of like decompress and
if it's a movie that I know is meant to scare me, it's always at night. I have to watch it at night.
Oh god.
It's just no fun otherwise.
That's fair. If you're not like, shit in your bed, trying to fall asleep or whatever after, It's like, oh, let me just finish this, and I'm like watching it on my phone or whatever. Okay, well that fucked me up. Now time for bed. And try and sleep? Yeah, no, it ain't gonna happen.
I think another one was obviously you've heard of the Mandela catalog, but there was this one point in that series where I had that like little puppet thing being like, we're going to play a game, where I think I may have told this on the podcast before, but again, I'm going to tell it again because it's a good story, where it was like, we're going to create an imaginary friend together, and he goes through like all these steps, and he's like, now I want you to imagine your new friend in an empty room in your house right now. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking of this. And again, it was at night, all the lights were off, and I was watching this, and he was like, you know what? I think it worked. Your new friend is in your home looking for you right now. And at that exact same moment, I heard something from either my bedroom or my bathroom. It was just like a fucking... And I was like, nope, we're done. I turned on every single light in my house. I was like, nope, we're done. We're done. We're done. I'm not finishing this tonight. I'll watch the rest of them in the morning. We're done. I'm fucked. I swear to God, I did not sleep that night. I was so freaked out.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a downside of watching those movies at night. But it's like, man, you gotta watch those movies at night. It's just, unless you're watching like Friday the 13th or, Child's Play, where it's obviously, a big shit post. It's just no fun watching those movies in the day.
Yeah, that's fair. Ugh. Horror movies. I'm glad I looked up Lake Mungo, and it's on Amazon Prime, and I'm just like, well, I guess I know what I'm gonna watch on a bored day again.
Let me know what you think after watching it. I'm curious. It is to this day one of my favorite horror movies.
Alrighty.
I'm sorry that we got on this.
No,
tangent.
you
This is
good,
a weird
man.
Tangent to go on.
It's good.
Man, we were talking about anime.
We went from anime to horror or whatever, and I'm gonna go back to the original question I posed or whatever when I talked about like video games as well. It's just like, it's like what, like there was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was like one specific, like I remember, like I wasn't really sure what to think of, like every like Lord of the Rings game I had really ever played, like minus a few, were like pretty bad. So I was like, wasn't really sure what to expect out of Shadow of Mordor.
Yes.
And so I was just like, all right, well, let me try playing this. Let me try playing this game. I've heard really good things about it. So I was like, but I remember the first moment where I was just like, all right, I am super on board for this game as it is right now. Where I think it was like the first time Dalian died. I think it was like in the thing or whatever. And he's like, oh, I got sacrificed. I'm going to die type thing or whatever. And then Celebrimbor just kind of shows up and he goes, you are banished from death. And I was just like, oh, that is such a great line. It's something I love about like the Shadow of series basically is just like how many great lines come from both games. It's just like it's like you were banished from death or whatever. It was a good one. The two I love from like Shadow of War were when Atariel is just like, oh, stalemate is victory, because in essence it's just like, oh, we just have to wait out until somebody finds the ring and destroys it, because somebody eventually will. There was that, and then there was there was a few of like the speeches like after like you capture a fortress or whatever, where it's just like, it's like, you fight for me, you fight for the bright Lord. And it was just like, and it was like that moment right there. I was like, that was so cool. Also, the time where Talion puts on the fucking ring or whatever, he was just like, he could have just died and like been with his family right there and then. Like, he could have just said, fuck all of Middle Earth. I have no connection to here whatsoever. Why do I care type thing? But because I'm a badass ranger, I'm going to put on Isildur's ring and say, as long as there is breath in my body, I will fight. And I'm just like, holy shit. I was like, that moment, that's so late in the game. But like, because that's when the game goes from Act 2 to Act 3, where it's the stalemate war is what they call it. Where basically you go from fort to fort and just battling and battling and battling, and then eventually you hit the post game where the game finishes and you successfully defended Mordor and kept Sauron within Mordor for 80 years. You did it. Good job. Hey, what's your thing? Oh, hey, Talion falls to the ring and becomes one of the Nazgul. Well, that doesn't seem like a very good ending.
Nope.
No, but then they do. It's like, oh, then the events of the Lord of the Rings happen or whatever, and the ring is destroyed, and Talion's finally free of his curse, and then he actually gets to die and be with his family again. And that was the good ending.
Nice.
But it's like there was so many lines like that or whatever. It's like, oh, it's so good.
I'm trying to think, because I've told so many stories about how Alan Wake was the game that got me into, storytelling in games. I can't remember what moment it was in that game where I was like, okay, I'm in it. I think I know it was some point in the game where I was just hooked and I just had to keep playing no matter what happened. I just don't remember what it was.
I can tell you what it was for me for Crisis Core. It was
Ooh, let's hear it. Yeah.
it was the very beginning of the game where it was towards. Well, yeah, it was like Zach's getting sent on his first mission with Angeal. It's like the first mission you take with it, and the director looks at you and looks at Zach and he's like, Zach, what is your dream? And he goes, is it to become first? Is it? And then Zach goes like, no, to become a hero. And then it's just like he kind of like laughs, and then he goes, huh, unattainable dreams are the best kind of dreams. And it's just like
Nice.
it's such a great line because it's like, especially because like Zach then goes like, thanks, like he's not sure if he should thank him for that comment or like say, hey, what the fuck, man, type thing. But it's like he's the director and he's the and you're the soldier, so it's like you're not really gonna talk back to him. But he didn't really know how to take it back then. It's like, but you think about that quote, you think about that line for just a half a second or whatever, and it's just like, oh, it does make it seem like he is making fun of Zach. It's like, oh, you want to be a hero? You're just like some stupid kid. What do you know about being a hero type thing? No, what he's saying is just like, oh, it's not, you don't have the goal just to become first. Like, that's not what you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to be something even greater than that. Like, and it's just like, you know what? You might never achieve it, but you're going to work your whole damn life to do so. And it's like, that is admirable. And it's like, damn. So many, like there's so many quotable lines from that one too. I could literally sit here and rattle off all day of just like lines that I was just like, that game does a spectacularly wonderful job with like showing off like how much Zach truly cares for Angeal, and then like and showing how good of a guy Angeal actually is, and the unfortunate circumstances his life ended up taking that were out of his control. And it was just like, and it was just like, man. And then like, I guess spoiler alerts for anyone that hasn't played Crisis Core or Crisis Core Reunion. Angeal dies later in the game, like midway through the game.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually thanks Zach for killing him because he believed he was a monster that needed to be stopped. And it was, and then he hands you the Buster Sword, and he goes, remember remember to protect your honor always. And then Zach, for the rest of his life, lived by that motto.
Fuck.
It's a great game. Play Crisis Core. Play Final Fantasy VII Remake. And hopefully, when I actually get around to Rebirth, play that as well.
You haven't gotten down to Rebirth yet?
I'm lazy. It also doesn't help that the new season for Diablo 4 just came out, and my brother and I are actually kind of want to like try and play it. I don't know how much we'll actually play it, but we wanted to play it.
I was gonna ask, how was that?
We didn't play last season or whatever. It came out yesterday, so
Oh,
it's fine. From what people tell me is like the end game stuff is actually like kind of fun, so that's good.
they've been getting better with that, I guess.
Season 2 was pretty good. Season 3 was kind of like not great, but we didn't really play Season 3, so it was like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it looks like they're doing steps in the right direction, so that's a plus.
I think in terms of video games, one of the it was a moment in the very first BioShock game where I was like, obviously those games hooked me on very, very early on. I love the world, I love the design, I love the story. Basically before, because my first game in the BioShock franchise was actually Infinite, so I love basically all that stuff going in. I think the point where it like really connected with me on like an almost like emotional level was in the very first game. And it's when you encounter a little sister for the very first time. You know, Jack, or whatever his name is, takes out the big daddy, and the little sister is like just kind of sitting there. And obviously I decided to rescue them all instead of, going for high risk to get the bad ending. I played the game for a second time, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to go for the bad ending this time. I'm going to do harvest on all these. And I realized in that moment that I I just couldn't. I did
You
not
just physically
have it
didn't
in,
have it in you, huh?
I didn't have it in me to like look that virtual like fake little girl in the eyes and be like, "Yep, I'm going to kill you and rip your spine out." No, I just couldn't fucking do it. I was like, I don't care what like rewards I get from doing this. I could not do it. I think that was the point where I realized, oh, I'm like into this.
Yeah.
I actually feel for this, virtual character that was never born nor will ever exist.
Don't it's so interesting that like
Mm-hmm.
that like games can do that so well. It's like I like some franchises do it so incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever. It's like like the one I always drew up with is Final Fantasy. It's like I think about it. It's like how many Final Fantasy games have I connected to or have like some meaningful like relationship with each of the with each of those characters from every one of those games, and it's like majority. Like of all the games I've played or whatever, it's like I have like I was just like, man, this person never existed, never will exist in my lifetime or anything like that, and yet
Yeah.
I'm so emotionally attached to them. And it's like, huh. It's incredible that like games can do that, I think, in a level that a lot of other mediums just can't do.
Mm-hmm. And so the personal connections that you can form with a lot of in-game NPCs and connect with the stories is one of the most unique things about games. And I think that's a lot of things that, obviously, even in today's world of gaming where everything's, trying to be a live service, everything's like a big online multiplayer thing where thousands of players online. I think a lot of people tend to forget that at the end of the day, that is one of the more special things about gaming.
Yeah.
How you can how it communicates the narrative in such a different way to like movies or TV shows or even books. It's just crazy to think about like how different each of those methods of storytelling are and how they're able to connect with people in different ways.
It's why people always tell me, is like, when was the last time you like read a book or whatever and stuff like that? And I'm just like, I don't know, it's been a while. I think I listened to like the first Lord of the Rings book or whatever, and I was like, but I was like, before that I was like, but I was like, and people always say it was like, because sometimes people like read my writing or whatever that I do, and I haven't really written in a long time. That was like back in college when I did a lot of writing, and people said it's like, you actually write really well for someone that's like doesn't read books. And I go, I've played so many video games and have experienced so many stories through that even if I don't see it on a written page, I've experienced it in my life or whatever and stuff like that. And it's just like, and those connections will ultimately inspire me to do other things with writing or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's like even listening to like some like I've been listening to like Critical Role with like their D&D podcast or whatever, and it's like Matt Mercer and whoever the writing team that comes up with like his stuff do really well with like fleshing out Exandria and stuff like that, and like doing a really good job of, the world is so big that these heroes are just a part of it rather than the world existing for them.
You don't need to read a ton of books to know how to tell a good story. That's just basic facts.
I feel like we're getting to the point where that is true, though. Like, I feel like people are understanding that is like a thing now. It's like you don't necessarily have to read books or whatever. It's like movies can also do the same thing, where it was just like they show you, and if you see the kind of like the flow of it or whatever, it's like you can write a halfway decent story. It's nothing like you're gonna get published or anything like that. No, but like,
yeah.
it's like that takes some serious writing, but it's like you can write some short stories that are pretty impactful.
No, I was just saying earlier too, but it's like how you experience each of those mediums is just so fundamentally different too.
Yeah.
Because it's like I've, I'm not obviously not gonna, shit talk anybody that don't want to read the books.
Yeah.
That's your choice at the end of the day. You don't have to, but I'm sure there's a lot of people, and you can say I'm generalizing here, but I have heard people talk about like, well, I don't really need to read, the books for Dune because I've already seen the movie. Like, why would I need to? And it's like, yeah, they cover the same story, but you experience them in such different ways.
And there's
It's
so
like,
much that's left out.
basically, yeah. And if obviously if you want to just watch the movie, just watch the movie.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think I kind of wish Billy was here because I think he could help me
Sum up your thoughts there.
basically. When you're reading a book, you just absorb it in such a fundamentally different way than you do when you're watching the films. And books are very unique in that sense. And I think the best example there is they made a TV show of the book or the book 11/22/63. It's a Stephen King book, and in my opinion, even after all the books that I've read now, it's probably one of the best ones that I've ever read. It is so fucking amazing, and the series is just such low effort trash. I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt or whoever the fucking actor, James Franco. That's the name of that actor in that series. But man, did that series ever fall flat for me. I forgot where I was going with this. It just feels different. I'm sorry. I'm babbling.
Are you good? I get what you're trying to say here. It's just like how I look at it is especially when it comes to like movies and over like books or whatever. It's like people talk about it. It's like, oh, the movie is good, but the book is better type thing or whatever. It's however you want to experience like the medium or whatever. It's like especially like with a series like Dune or whatever. It's like they're gonna cut out a bunch of stuff because it's so dense. Like there's just so much that's there that it's just like rather than having like 9 hours of movie. They just try and condense it down to the important parts.
And something that I think a lot of people just need to understand is there are some people, and I can relate to this hardcore actually too. There are some people that just cannot do books.
Yeah.
They just do not absorb them the same way. They can't. Like, I try and sit down and read like a physical book. It is really hard.
It's hard
for me. That's why it's like I have Audible. I do so much better with audiobooks, and that's how I've always done things. And like I am a part of like a few different Reddit groups where for our literary people, and I like the Stephen King one. People were generally pretty nice, but when I brought up, oh yeah, I'm listening to X and X, and there are just so many people that are like, audiobooks, you're not really reading though, you're just kind of listening, and it's like,
yeah. But you're absorbing the information, and that's really all that matters.
That's all that should matter.
Because that's all reading is like the thing is like, and what I think you were kind of getting at is that some people are more visual learners, and some people like they like to hear it rather than like kind of trying to imagine it. Because a lot of people can't really imagine things, even when it's fully descripted on the thing or whatever. It's hard to picture sometimes.
It's just easier for like me and some other people to do it that way.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't sit down and physically read a book anymore. I find it too boring. I find that I'm focusing on too many things. It's like I'm trying to focus on reading, but also building a picture in my head, to which I just can't do. I have to focus on one thing. So if I'm hearing it read to me, I can imagine it in my head as I hear it, and that is going from two things to one thing. Oop, just bonks my mic. But it was like, I lost my thought now.
For some people, that's hard. It can be a hurdle that not a lot of people are going to get over. And there are some people where even with audiobooks, they're just going to be like, I can't jive with this, man. At the end of the day, that's okay, because we can all absorb different types of media in different ways. Like if books are what does it for you, do your thing. If you're a big movie person, watch more movies. And if you just really like narratives and games, there's nothing wrong with that.
No. Yeah, absolutely. Another thing as well from like the audiobooks, sometimes also I find that a lot of the audiobooks, like the person or person reading it can add a lot to a story or whatever. I was like, I'm listening to the Lord of the Rings told by Andy Serkis, and so my favorite parts are the ones where Gollum is there because obviously he's the actor for Gollum.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so like whenever Gollum's on screen, he does like, and he goes, "This speaking voice," and like Gollum, and I was like, and it's just like, it's so great. It's like it adds so much to, like, those are the best parts of those books or whatever, which is completely the opposite of the movies where it's just like, you see Gollum, you're like, get the fuck out of here, Gollum, nobody wants you here type thing. But it's like, reading it, like listening to him just like kind of like read the book and then like add the extra voice or whatever, and it's like, and well, he's not like the best voice actor, and it's like I'm not expecting him to put on like a bunch of different, like, I mean, he's great for the characters he does, but I'm not expecting him to do the same level for all the characters. So some fall short in essence, but that's to be expected. Like, Andy Serkis is great. I'm not trying to throw clout at him.
Yeah.
And but it's just like, but there's just times where it's like, sometimes it's like, oh, here is my elf voice, here is my other elf voice, and sometimes that can be hard to distinguish them or whatever type thing. But I was like, no, the Gollum stuff is super good. Also, the Tom Bombadil stuff, when he shows up or whatever, it's just like he goes into like his like happy-go-lucky, like holly jolly type like voice or whatever, where it's like it's kind of like a lower but like kind of like loud voice. It's really good.
A really good reader just knows how to make a story come alive, and that's like one of the great things about audiobooks, dude. So I just kind of want to throw this out there because I think it's funny. Did you know that there's this series, like a horror book series, that's honestly also kind of comedic, called Tales from the Gas Station? I love it. It is one of my favorite series of all time. The official audiobook they got one of the people that ran one of those old creepypasta YouTube channels. They were like, we want you to come in and you're going to do the audiobook for this, and it's perfect, and he does amazing. I just thought that was really funny.
Huh.
But no, I think, again, one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to was 11/22/63. The voice actor for that, he did an incredible job. I loved listening to every part of that book. It's almost like 30 hours long. I'm thinking about listening to it again, too. But the thing is that he sounds pretty much exactly like one-to-one, like the guy that plays Saul Goodman on Better Call Saul. So it's like when I tried watching the TV series and it was James Franco, it's just like, no, I can't. This role either has to be played by the Better Call Saul guy, or I'm just not going to buy this. Because it's like, while I was listening to the book, it sounded just like that actor. So the entire time, that dude's image was in my head while listening to the book.
Yeah.
I suppose that can be like one of the like bigger downsides to reading or like listening to an audiobook. It's like, no, this is not how I imagined it when you watch like a series or a movie.
I think sometimes it also helps, like, if you like, it's like it had been a long time since I read like The Lord of the Rings or whatever, but it's like I've seen the movies countless times.
Yeah.
So it's just like listening to it or whatever. It's like I already kind of generally know what's going on, but like, obviously with more detail. But it's like it's interesting to see like the differences between like the books and the movies or whatever as well. It's just like, oh, that's different from how it went in the movie or anything like that. Like, that's actually just completely different. So I was like, huh, that's interesting. Like the moment when, I think it's at the end of it's the end of the first movie when Frodo leaves the Fellowship.
Yeah.
And he like, it goes with him just kind of wandering off, and like, eventually Boromir comes and he tries to take the ring or whatever. Aragorn never sees Frodo because like after Frodo escaped Boromir, Frodo then runs into Aragorn, who then declines the ring, basically, and he just says, he's like, oh, go, my friend, or whatever. It's like, if you do what you think you need to do best or whatever, rather than sticking with the Fellowship or whatever. And then like while the orcs are coming up or whatever, fight, which Aragorn and the group was never a part of in the book. Boromir fought the entirety of all of them until he died, and then once the two hobbits, like Merry and Pippin, were taken, that's how it ends. Like Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas never make it to the fight. They were too late, and then they go back to camp, only to find that Frodo had been gone. Once again, Aragorn, never seeing Frodo at that point, didn't know he was leaving, or anyway, Sam only predicted that Frodo was going to leave via boat, and that's why he ended up coming along.
Yeah.
Like that, and like what happens later on is that he ends up running back to the camp for reasons unknown, and then just going out to like swimming out even though he can't swim, type thing in the movie. That's not how it goes. Eventually, Sam just says like, "No, I'm coming with," before he even gets out on the boat, and just jumps in and leaves. And it's like, clearly that's for adding another action scene on top in the movie with just like the fight. But it's like, it's interesting because that goes completely different from how it does in the movie. All right, well, thank y'all so much for listening to this. This was a great discussion. I loved it. Yeah. But all things must come to an end at some point. So here we are.
Oh, but it never ends.
Exactly. Just like the podcast does. Which, by the way, if you're not already subscribed to, be subscribed to, because it's pretty cool and pretty good. I think we enjoy making it, and I think we do a pretty good job at it.
I think so too.
Yeah. Be sure to check out, Alex or my YouTube as well. It's all linked down in the description below. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it though. It's gonna be for us. See y'all next time. Bye bye.